Hi everybody, today we're going to take a look at the Pentium III Coppermine. It's a 180 nanometer process, the second generation Pentium 3s, and it's on a Intel 815 PE or 815 something EB motherboard, and it was a great speedy chip, stable motherboard. The only downside was the maximum amount of RAM. You could only have 512 megs of max RAM on these boards, which wasn't a problem at the time, but it certainly was a limitation. And there's some other boards, I think an Apollo Pro 133 chipset, something like that. They'll let you put 1 gig in the board, but I don't have one of those boards, and this board was completely fine for the time. And I thought it would be fun to give it a test and see how many years the Pentium III could last for gaming. High-end gaming to whatever gaming. So I tried to pick a gaming title from each year from 1999, and we're going to try to go all the way up through 2017, because I don't have any games from 2018, and in fact I might not have any from 2017, but we're going to see how far we can get the Pentium III. It doesn't have to be a AAA title. It can just be any game that was released that year for the PC. Of course, I'm going to start with AAA titles, just so we can see the actual CPU here. We've got a Pentium III processor, 1 gigahertz, 512 megs of RAM. I am running sort of a souped up video card in here. I've got a Radeon HD 3450, and I actually benchmarked it against a GeForce 4 Ti 4800, and it's about twice as fast as the GeForce 4 Ti 4800, and of course supports Pixel Shader 4, all these other features. So definitely higher end video card than anyone would have ever put into a Pentium III. This Pentium III, when I was actively using it, I had a GeForce 3 Ti 500. No one would have put a card this powerful in this machine. So it's a really good benchmark card for us to see how far we can take it with the CPU. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start at 1999 with, of course, Quake 3 Arena. Alright, so as you can see, 1999 Quake 3 Arena, no issues whatsoever, nice smooth gameplay. So let's move on to the year 2000, which I picked Giants Citizen Kabuto, I guess is how you pronounce it, which was a great game, really funny, and amazing graphics for the time. Alright, so that was Giants Citizen Kabuto, and it was playable. It was a little bit slow FPS, actually, I have to say, considering it's around the same year that the Pentium III came out, and I'm running a super duper fast graphics card, so I was kind of surprised at the low FPS on it. But it was certainly playable, and I had all the settings maxed out. It's a pretty beautiful game. I remember being sort of taken aback when I first played it, how amazing the graphics were. Of course, it doesn't look like that now, but back in 2000 it did. All right, so successful test for 1999 and 2000. So let's move on. Let's move to 2001 and 2002. So we're going to do Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Morrowind. All right, so let's test Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Copy. Well, Jack, have we heard anything?
Yes, sir. We've just received a coded transmission from Kessler, our contact in the Kreisau Circle.
There you are. Shackles up on this war. Dr. Z, is everything all right down there?
So as you can see, there's no problems at all with Return to Castle Wolfenstein 2001. So we're still playing AAA titles here. So let's move on to 2002, check out our performance in Morrowind.
We make a special trip just for you. Same low price.
Die, Fetcher! You will suffer greatly!
Well, as you can see, no problems running Morrowind. It has pretty slow FPS, but Morrowind always had a pretty low FPS, even on my more powerful systems with a video card upgrade and everything. Just never ran at a high FPS. And that was a little bit slower than what I was used to, but it was still playable enough. So I'm going to count 2002 as still AAA playable for the Pentium 3. All right, so let's move on to 2003, 2004. And we've got Max Payne 2 and Doom 3. So this is where it starts to get pretty hard for the old Pentium 3.
I'll deal with Payne. He's as good as dead.
Freeze, NYPD!
Found him.
She's one of them. She's here to kill me.
Back off, Payne.
Winterson!
So Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, runs absolutely fine. So let's check out Doom 3.
All remaining Marine units, this is Sergeant Kelly. I am unable to reach Mars City from my current position. Move to Marine HQ to regroup and await further orders.
So Doom 3 is playable, but not that great. I didn't turn it on minimum settings. I had it on medium. So I could probably get better performance turning it on low. But of course then you'd be jealous of your friends that are playing it on high settings. But it's definitely playable on Pentium 3. You can still play a AAA title, still have all that gameplay. You might have to turn down the eye candy a little bit. Even with my more powerful graphics card, the Pentium 3 wasn't able to drive it, I don't think. So, but yeah, so 6 years later, we're still going AAA. So let's move on to 2005, 2006 with Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2, and Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. So here we go with Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Find what you're looking for amongst the dead. Close to death. Yes, closer than I'd like. You have the smell of the Colto tank about you. How do you feel? Yes, I had hoped as much. I slept here too long and could not awaken. It may be I reached out unconsciously, and your mind must have been a willing one. Or perhaps you have been trained for such things.
Alright, so no problems running Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. Had to lower the graphic settings a little bit, but it was completely playable. No problems at all. So that is now 7 years. Let's move on to year number 8 for the Pentium 3. And let's see if we can run Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Wow, I'm really surprised about Oblivion. I did not think that that would be playable on a Pentium 3, but it really was. It wasn't great with the FPS, but I actually had the graphic settings, as you could see, set pretty high, and you don't need high FPS necessarily for that game, and it was great. It was totally playable. Did not expect that. Alright, so let's move on to 2007, 2008 with Bioshock and Mass Effect, and see how it runs on the Pentium 3. That Bioshock is actually playable, not good, but playable. Maybe not in everyone's mind, but you could actually play it if you wanted to. I find that really amazing on the Pentium 3. Really, really surprising. So that's still a AAA title 9 years later. Alright, so let's take a look at Mass Effect and see how Mass Effect runs.
Shields.
Sometimes Marines die. The rest of us just have to carry on. We still have to find that beacon.
Aye, aye, sir.
I think it's safe to say that Mass Effect is not playable whatsoever, and 2008 is the end of AAA gaming for the Pentium 3, sadly. Maybe there's some games in 2008 that are more optimized than Mass Effect. Could try to narrow that down in another video. This is the one I picked for this video, and that was pretty pathetic. There's no way you could play to the end of the game with that kind of performance. So I'm going to call it, that's the end of AAA gaming. So we're going to move down to lower end gaming for 2009, 2010. See if we can find some titles that'll work better on our Pentium 3. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ones that I picked. I have 2009 for Torchlight and Super Meatboy for 2010. let's go ahead and give Torchlight a shot, see how that runs for us. Okay, so kudos to the programmers for Torchlight. That actually ran great on the Pentium 3, completely playable. So that would be in 2009 on your Pentium 3, a great multiplayer hack and slash RPG that you could have been online with your friends that probably had Core 2 duos or something playing, which actually would have been hilarious. So yeah, Torchlight 2009, ran great. Okay, let's check out Super Meatboy. So Super Meat Boy 2010, no problems. Of course, it's a low-end title there, but that's okay. The idea is that we're still finding new games that are coming out that year that we can purchase to play on our old system. So definitely found something with Super Meat Boy, worked great. So let's move on to years 13 and 14 for the Pentium 3, and we're gonna give Limbo and Torchlight a try. So let's go ahead and try Limbo. runs great. There's another game, 2011, that we can play on our Pentium 3. So let's move on to 2012 and see if we can handle Torchlight 2.
Welcome, my friend.
My mana is low.
Your pet has fled. Oh, man.
Not enough mana.
Again, those efficient coders over at whoever's programming Torchlight have done a great job with Torchlight 2. Super efficient, and it runs great on the Pentium 3. Bit laggy. I probably could have turned down some of the graphical settings and stuff to smooth it out a bit, but it's definitely playable. So let's move on to 2013 and 2014. Check out my picks for those years. And we're going to take a look at Fez for 2013 and A Bird Story for 2014. So let's start with Fez. Okay, so Fez seems to load okay and play just fine. So we'll move on to 2014. And the only game I really had for 2014 that I could get to work was A Bird Story. So we'll give it a whirl here. Alright, so we were able to run a bird story, but it was pretty choppy, but that wouldn't necessarily prevent you from enjoying that game in particular. I don't know why it's so choppy, because it's not that sophisticated of a game. So we're moving on to year 17 of the Pentium III. Let's see what I found for that year. So for 2015, we're going to check out Ys 6, the Ark of Nephistum, however you say that. What's interesting about this game, it's kind of a little bit of a cheat, but it's the only game I had from 2015 that I could get to work on the Pentium III. And it was released in 2015 for PC, but it's a port, and I believe it came out much earlier on some sort of console system or something. Let's check it out. Ys 6 runs perfectly well on Pentium 3. In fact, it runs amazingly well. For 2016, I do have an original release for the PC, Samarost 3. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So let's take a look at that. That's year 18. Wow. Samarost 3 runs amazing on the Pentium 3. It looks amazing, it runs amazing, it sounds amazing. That is some pretty good programming there, I think, from whoever developed that game. That is 18 years after the launch of the Pentium 3, and it's running that game perfectly. But there's certainly games coming out every year that you could keep playing on the Pentium 3. Now, coming up to 2017, I am sorry to say that I couldn't find any games in my library that would work on the Pentium 3. I was interested to try Ys 7. However, it was $25. I'm going to have to wait for a Steam sale for that. And for 2018, I don't know any indie titles out yet or anything to give a try. So I have to end it here at 2017 as far as the games that are available. But I don't doubt that I could find something on 2017 and perhaps even 2018 that would run on this Pentium 3, run on Windows XP. Of course, XP is not supported anymore, so eventually it's going to go out and not be able to play any modern games, even low-end games. However, you can put Windows 7 on a Pentium 3, but I feel like if you put Windows 7 on here, the operating system itself would crush it to a point where it wouldn't be beneficial to try to play any games or anything. I would say that the Pentium 3 is still usable for Office, for getting information off the internet, doing your email, and playing old games or even super low-end modern games that are coming out from year to year if you want to check out new games as they come out, which I think is amazing. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I actually enjoyed making it because I didn't know how far that it was going to go, and I had a blast putting it together. If you're interested in me doing some more of these videos with some different types of CPUs, let me know.